Welcome, everybody. Getting set up, wait for people to show up and get on here before we get started. I'll just take a few moments to talk and share us a few things and get into the message real quick. Um, yeah, today here in Colorado, it was nice and warm and hot. And it wakes up people, if you're in Colorado, why am I wearing a flannel shirt? Well, I'm in the basement. You do marvelous work with the basement, knock out a wall and get the after, the stars in the sky and mountains. But this is a green screen I use. But it's freezing down here in the basement. It's like the air conditioner turned up high. I think it's about 65 or 64 degrees down here in the basement. Upstairs, it's a comfortable 73 or 4 degrees. Very pleasant. Could be in 75 upstairs, but it's freezing down here. Well, that's Colorado weather. It's very dry, though, man. We need rain, more rain. But anyway, we're going to be talking about a subject tonight. I'm just going to talk about it, and then we'll jump in. I'll do another little video and then jump in. Not a video, but I'll just show another. We'll just kind of jump in and get started here, because I'm going to be talking about possession, and I'm going to be I'm revising my mass possession by the year 2025 video that I did in 2021 or 2020 or 2021. I can't remember, or 2022. I can't remember when it was. And I talked about how the occult world, through the theosophists and other occult people, theosophists like H.P. Blavatsky, Anna Bassett, the founders, and Alice Bailey, and some of the newer ones talk about mass possession, and they talk about overshadowing, how overshadowing type of possession works and stuff. I want to do a follow-up because I'm going to quote the part there that they're talking about the externalization of the hierarchy. It'll begin around 2025. It begins, and it will be a physical, preparing the world for a physical manifestation. And boy, are we seeing things like that being prepared. We're having now ETs suddenly appear, and these extraterrestrials, they say, they're just demonic beings. They're not from other planets. They're actually from interdimensional beings that are very deceptive. As those of you who are listening in with Jason, and in my interview with him, he's a UFO researcher, describes these entities lie. And I found out through other testimonies of people who contacted with these things or told things by them that did not happen, they lie, deliberately lie and deceive. And so the general consensus amongst the Christian circles about these interdimensional beings called demons they are deceiving people to think that they are extraterrestrials that come to save the world and bring everybody together amazingly into a one world system of rule. It seems very consistent. So I find it more befitting to go back over and talk about this, because we're going to talk about the subject of possession. So when I start talking about possession, some branches of Christianity they lose their. I like Dr. Anthony George of First Baptist Church. He's one of my wife and I's favorite pastor. And unfortunately, she passed away in 2024. We were actually planning to go to church there and move there, but it didn't work out as one of her ideas. But anyway, I like what Dr. Anthony George would say about this situation. You lost your ever loving cotton picking mind. Because when people think that people can't be possessed or nothing, that this doesn't happen anymore, this is only in the movies. There is possession. There is stages of possession, which I'll talk about later in when I get to it. And people who have been around, and a lot of pastors and many churches are confronted with this, and many Baptist ministers confronted with this, and they become true believers. They've seen the possessed, and they see them do some wild things, and they use their authority in Jesus because they have to, and these things leave the body. And I'm thinking of I always call him Doctor, but Charles Lawson of Temple Baptist Church, one. Anthony George is another. If I remember right, I think even Dr. Andy, Dr. Charles Stanley mentioned possession once, about demons possessing people. I know I heard a teaching by him a while back about them many years ago. My wife used to watch them all, and I used to watch them a lot. So you go around and there is possessed people, but you have possessed people in and all over the place, and you don't know it. But there's 4 stages to it, and I'll talk about the 4 stages in a minute. But yeah, but when you compound that with the occult world and their idea of bringing a new order of the age in, the aliens want to help to bring peace and safety into the world. And when you find the testimony of people who talk to these entities, and now they're coming out, it's being disclosed right around the year 2025, just like clockwork. And Alice Bailey channeled these entities. They do know their appointed time. That is brought out in Mark's gospel about Legion. Okay? Legion. There was a man who Jesus asked what his name, or what's your characteristics here? What are you doing? What's your name? What's your characters? Not his name wasn't Legion. It was what is your characteristics? Well, he's the one in charge of a legion, is what it meant. A legion consisted of 6,000 men in Roman times. 2,000 of them would stay encamped. Other 4,000 will be dispensed around the area, and that area was a lot of Roman soldiers, and they had heard about 2,000 pigs up there they were going to sacrifice to Jupiter, the Roman god Jupiter. And so 2,000 pigs jumped off of a cliff. Okay, so everything fits. It's an identifying marker, and so these entities can inhabit a person en masse. I'm not kidding. And how is that possible? I don't know. This is a spiritual dimension, and I have witnessed it, actual possessions, many times in the last 43, 44 years since I actually encountered one. About 40, almost 40, 44, about 44 years. I don't. They're rare, but I encounter enough of them, and so it's actual possession is what the oppression, other stuff is. But I'll be talking about some of that. But with that, I think I got your attention. So let's get started with this. And I don't know if I can bring this up or not. I'm going to try. And I forgot to do this. I'm going to add this. I forgot to add my intro here. Here we go. All right, we're a little technical difficulty there. I am the engineer and the host. I have to do everything. Quite distracting, so bear with me, folks. So let's get into today's message. Mass possession beyond 2025. Is it even possible? Have you noticed something going on lately that's way off kilter? You feel something is off? You feel like that? It's like something has shifted in the atmosphere. That's what someone mentioned to me last night. Politicians are hell-bent on destruction of their own nation and people, pushing their buttons constantly. What is going on? Have you ever thought about that? You have foreigners being favored who demand we assimilate to them or else, instead of them assimilating to us as the natural laws of immigration and consent go. So you got to ask, are these politicians possessed? You ever thought of that? Has that thought ever crossed your mind that these people must be, what's wrong with them? If you don't believe in possession, what's wrong with them? They have some psychological problem. Did the big bad mean man steal their lollipop when they're an infant, and that traumatized them to want to control everything, control all the lollipops and make a one world system? Is that it? Why so many on the same page? I don't know. We're going to explore that. How do you explain any of this? how we as common sense folks are demonized daily as Nazis, fascists, deplorable, scum, vermin, worthy of demise by the powers that be. Shoving colonialist, because these people are colonialist wokeism to erase our culture and heritage down our throats. And it's just like this, like it's written here in The Psychology of Genocide, Massacre, and Extreme Violence by Donald Dutton. A common perception of totalitarians is that their target groups are vermin or a virus. And so when you hear people in mass, in groups of people, going at it, classifying you as vermin, you are witnessing something biblical. That's mentioned in 2 Timothy chapter, I think it's 3, perilous times are coming. And you got to ask yourself, what is going on? I mean, have you ever noticed? Maybe you have a relative. I've come across relatives and I've come across friends. And if I mention Donald Trump, they go ballistic. If I mention I agree with free markets, I am cascaded. People get so mad they foam at the mouth. You can see blood shooting out of their eyes. You can they're insane. Have you ever noticed that? This wasn't like this before. What's going on? Mass possession before the year 2025 and beyond. So the question that comes, could they be possessed? We see it today. This mass possession is happening. Perilous times are here and beginning just like the Bible predicted and said. In fact, the ancient Greek world of the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Romans, and Greeks and Akkadian ancient rulers and elites back then thought that this was the way to govern their people. They sought to be possessed. They invited it into their leadership, a possession. In fact, in the pre-flood world, listed in the Sumerian king listed, each king had a spiritual entity assigned to guide them, usually found in the name meanings and such, known to them as the seven Akapalu, the seven Akapalu. Akapalu means the wise sages from the Abus, or the abyss, or the deep waters of the abyss. Wise sages from the abyss. Where do these so-called ETs come from? From the abyss. After all, Jesus revealed that in Matthew chapter 25. He said that hell was prepared for the angels and for the devil and his minions and his fallen angel minions. Later, in occultic theosophy, they would call them part of this Akapalu, part of the hierarchy, the seven planetary logos of the hierarchy sent to Earth to train and equip mankind in peace and safety and collectivism and group love and all that stuff. These were the top seven that were in charge. Okay, their tasks were to speak into a king's ear in the antediluvian period, before the flood. The task of the Akapalu and their minions were to speak into the king's and the elite's ear as a mediator between the gods and the king, to counsel him and guide him how to govern and attain everything. It is basically goes back to the seven rays of initiation brought out theosophy as well as the occult world. Promised them power, because they had all power. They could change the world into a loving, caring world, and they can bring everybody into unity under them. You have the kings, you have the leadership and the merchants, and then you have the serfs, and you have a perfect world. How do you get there? You have to do the fourth ray of initiation, order out of chaos. You have to destroy the existing world order and destroy the system, destroy God's order and design, and build it back better. And then how is this achieved? It's through the fifth ray of initiation, through the sciences and through training a new civilization, a new mindset for humanity, science, psychology, and all that, and using the sciences and mathematics and everything, taking it over like wokeism does, to rearrange dates and times and erase history and all that, to teach people. You got to house break them into this new mentality for their own good. And you do that with the sixth ray of initiation, which is all come into the agreement with their ideation, their ideology and ideation of a perfect world. And then it's all brought about, and they're all brought about by into the seventh ray of initiation through the occultic arts and means, through this possession of leadership. This is how the ancient world rolled. This is why Pharaoh thought himself as a god. The Roman emperors thought they were gods. Some of the Greek, uh, uh, we call them prime ministers, whatever, and some of their leaders thought that they were gods. Okay, it's the same thing. Modern scholars of ancient Akkadian era and Mesopotamian era have pointed these things out. As Derek Gilbert, host of Skywatch TV, pointed out, these entities were called jinn. They were assigned to sages to speak in the ears of kings what the jinn were saying. Because after the flood, what happened, according to the scholars and like Michael Heiser, Derek Gilbert, and a host of others I've read, they're finally getting around that after the flood, the Akapalu were basically assigned in the abyss. So just put it mildly. 4 of them remained there to today. 3 were allowed to get out. I won't get into that right now. That's a little technicality. But and that's why the 4 entities mentioned in the book of Revelation under the Euphrates River are 4 of the Akapalu. And that's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, and that's fine with me. You don't have to. I'm just quoting and researching and putting everything together in a nice little neat package so that you can understand it. I'm not giving into a lot of details and explanation here. You got to forgive me of that. I don't have time. But what they stress is that they no longer are, but the underlings under them still exist. We call them the Nephilim spirits. Some of them call them just the fallen, different types of fallen angels that did not get assigned to the abyss after the flood, as Book of Enoch mentions. But the Skywatch TV people point out that these entities were called jinn, and no longer did the actual presence of an angelic being whispered into the king's ear to console him. Now, as the Dr. Heiser and other Derek Gilbert and others I've read talked about, these entities were called jinn, and they were assigned to human sages or priests to speak into the ear of kings to what the jinn were saying as the intermediators between those trapped in the abyss. This is wild, folks, and channel that back up to them and how to govern the world and pop them out of the abyss. But I digress. I'm making a long story so short, all the details are left out. I don't have time to go into them. In the modern Arabic world, the name jinn is still used. Jin, jinn. Jinn comes from the root word jana, which is the female version, also known as jinnah or genie. Aladdin's lamp and just Aladdin's lamp and genie, jinn, okay, and jana, okay. I won't get into all that. Which means jana or jinn means to be hidden. Modern definition of jinn or jana is this: they dispense hidden, secret, occultic knowledge and wisdom to the leaders and rulers on how to govern, make war, make well, and to use absolute power. Absolutely. Basically it. In the Islamic world, a jinn is a concealed spiritual entity that attaches to human beings to alter their thoughts and change their behavior. The final goal is ultimate takeover of an individual. We call it possession. So in this certain Dhammic religion, it's all about dominance. They have their towers and their chants going out. They get in your face and they do harm to your citizenry, and it's all dominance. It's insane. It's possession. The ultimate goal is to possess people, to dominate them. To possess, seek to dominate people and oppress them or possess them too. The Apostle Paul explains this demonic hierarchy of the Akapalu type entities, all the fallen watchers, Satan and all that hierarchy in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 through 18. Verse 12, he talks about they consist of leading principalities. Under them are cosmic powers. Next are rulers of darkness, and the next is the host of wickedness in the heavenly places, in just around the atmosphere of the earth. I don't know how far they go out into our solar system, but they could go out quite a ways. That's called the second heaven. It's the space between the existing heaven and earth. Somehow, I don't know the dimensions or mileage or anything like that. I don't think anybody does. In heavenly places, jinn would be classed as the host of wickedness in the heavenly places to do the bidding, to whisper into leadership ear. Jinn are the host of wickedness class. They some of them, I heard people call them Pazuzu, or enforcers. Pazuzu is a Mesopotamian demon. They come in all shapes and sizes. In fact, some of the Pazuzus, there's several types. There's some of the statues where they have wings, some of them don't, and some of them match the description that is found in Revelation. Let me turn to it real quick. Wasn't planning to do this, but might as well, since it's food for thought. Mentioned in Revelation chapter 9. If I can turn to it. And the fifth angel sounded. Then, in a star fallen from heaven, he was given a key to the bottom of the pit. And he opened the bottom of this pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Out of the smoke, locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power of scorpions of the earth to have the power. Okay? And they're described, their torment was like a sting of a scorpion. So they describe them as scorpion tails and locusts, trying to look like a bug with that's a Pazuzu. There's different types of them. And so these are the enforcers of dominance over humanity to make them comply for peace and safety purposes, for a brave new world. I'll prove it in just a few minutes here. I mentioned this before. These entities know how to kickstart chemical reactions in the brain, and thus are able to access and regulate the neurotransmitters in the brain and secrete serotonin levels, increase testosterone or estrogen, whatever the case may be, through finding pleasure in certain things you shouldn't be doing, flight and fight responses, things like that. I always tell people these entities know human biology better than we do. They know how to kickstart certain chemical reactions that happen in the brain to stimulate pleasure or anger or lust or whatever. They know how to kickstart it. They do. The jinn-like entity clouds people's judgments. They foster erratic moods, swings. They have pleasure and pain and rewards for revenge, hate, bitterness. They love the loser mentality to get people broken down. They have a certain love of self-esteem, and then they go to complete self-loathing type things start happening to people. And they also teach the need to become one with the divine, to get secret knowledge and wisdom. They create how to achieve ecstatic, euphoric states of consciousness and so forth, by reaching the divine mind or whatever, by manipulating the fallen human sin nature's propensity for sin. There are basically 4 stages of possession. First is obsession. So they know how to trick the mind and get the neurotransmitters and the chemicals going to addict you, basically, to obsession. When one's thoughts are besieged, but they still function normally. Your thoughts are besieged with a loser mentality or a winner mentality, and this is not normal. This is outside of normal. Feeling down or feeling that you want to achieve the best for life. This is way out of bounds. This is obsession. Obsession. I mean, they're driven. Narcissistic obsession. Psychopathic obsession. Sociopathic obsession is far different than normal things that you like. You want to achieve the best for your family and you want the best for your kids. That's normal. And you want people to thrive. You don't want them to be deprived. You want to do the best. You have a level head on your shoulder, and but you can be obsessed with fishing, fly fishing. You can be obsessed. That's not that's not possession. If you love fishing and you love going boating and you're obsessed by it, that's not what I'm talking about. This possession is about power and ruining your life and your thinking. You're a loser. You never amount to anything. And nobody in this family ever did anything, and neither will you type mentality. It's stuff that's passed on generationally, browbeat through your words. The words do have power to break people's souls and heart. Don't believe me? Then why? How do you explain the psyops going around, uh, disenfranchising hope in people that things will get better today in this world? That's obsession. They obsess about things way beyond the norm. The second stage is called oppression. That happens when a person's mind and their body begins to suffer. Sometimes a person may have some unexplained scratch marks, may appear as they transition into the third stage. That doesn't always happen. Usually in the third stage, the bite marks and scratches appear. I've seen this in folks. I was attacked by something once, and I was walking along praying, and all of us, and I got something. I felt something like that. I lifted up my shirt, and I go, "Oh my God, I got scratch marks." I rebuked it and renounced whatever it was coming out, because I knew a demonic attack, was trying to oppress me. So I rebuked it, got rid of it, and I had my wife look at it. She saw it, and the scratch marks went away real fast. It disappeared. I mean, these things happen. It's called oppression. They try to oppress you, try to get you frightened in your mind. And then sometimes your body will suffer some sort of affliction through the oppression. Uh, a disease state, anything like that could possibly be part of it. May not, could be just a biological flu or something that happens. I'm not saying everything is, but oppression is when your mind and your body, especially your mind, begins to suffer. And you drift into a mix of the obsessive. Okay. And it transitions into the third stage. It's called infestation stage. It's when these entities set up shop in the mind and holds people captive to all sorts of vile things and behavior and ways of thinking, lust and all that stuff, to blind ambition. They have the poor, pitiful me ideation to the extreme, to a degree way above the oppression stage. The body begins showing real, tangible, unexplainable scratch or teeth marks appear on the body in certain times. It could be once a year, every other month. It could, if they don't meet the obligation of the entity that's possessing them, they'll get them. I find it interesting that, you know who Tucker Carlson is, right? Everybody go, what happened to Tucker Carlson? Do you remember Tucker Carlson's own words explained how he was attacked and had really severe scratch marks all over parts of his body? Now look at him. You think something's going on? You think? And he's buttering up to the cuber religion. They like to dance around that cube, and they crush people. And if a woman's in the midst, it's touchy feely with them, very harassing, very demeaning, and they have to do it. The cubers. He likes the cubers. Jinn, cubers. Makes sense to me. May not make sense to you, but what do I know? The fourth stage is full-blown possession that most people think of. Several years back in my mass possession by the year 2025 video, I mentioned how people like this continue to function normally for a while. They work, they raise families, hold meetings, make decisions, but then suddenly, like a switch, you mention of a person, place, you mention Jesus Christ, Trump, a church, magna, poor, rich, race, ICE, they foam at the mouth. They go berserk. then it leaves them and they come back to normal. This is a form of what the occult world would call, or theosophy would call, a form of overshadowing. The spirit comes to possess, releases, possessed and final possession, take total hold of a person so that they become, maybe they dye their hair purple, put on a lot of weight, put a bone through their nose, and protest. And they get on this little ship. They go out with this flag with green stripes and stuff on it, going to Palestine in a smelly old rickety boat with sexual misconduct going on. And they may do stuff like that, or they go, might try to run over an ICE officer or something like that, or they're planning for extermination of vermin. When they reach that stage of total possession, they will exterminate who they think is vermin. This is done in history, seen in how these nice people in Nazi Germany fell for the lie and committed some of the most atrocious atrocities. This is how they committed the atrocities in Mao's China, and how they did so in Vietnam, how they did so in Cambodia, how they did so in Russia, in the Bolshevik Revolution and Stalin era, on up to when the USSR became no more. You got people who think that you're vermin, and they will bump you off. They think they're doing, like Jesus said, they're thinking they're doing God a service, doing it. They're God, the state, their God, whatever it is, the Salamiist, their entity they worship, that's what they do. Come in peacefully, then they take over. Then if you don't agree, So you mentioned people, they go ballistic. Okay, this goes back to the Sumerian pre-flood mythology, or of the old gods, of the seven divine Akapulu, who were assigned to the kings, leaders, and rulers to help guide human destiny. Each of the seven had a myriad of helpers to assist them in teaching civilization, farming, seasons, times to grow, arts, entertainment, so forth, to civilize humanity before the great flood. The Akafalu, the wise sages from the Abus, that's the exact meaning of the name, are fallen watchers seen before the flood, as the book of Jude describes, as leaving their first estate or their assigned task and corrupted humanity. After the flood, they were replaced by spiritual entities that became known as Umu, Yumun, or Mamu, or Yumo. Okay, it'd be Yumu, or Mayuma, or something like that. That means counselors, craftsmen, messengers who shapes and forms by use of creative force. That's what UMU or MUMMU, those words mean. It means counselor, craftsman, messengers who shapes and forms and use force, creative force, to carry out the will of their leader into the ear of leadership. They would influence human sages to whisper into the ears of their kings, rulers, or their priest class, their elite circles. Some of them would be the elite sages that had the ear of their leader, their king, whatever, expressing the divine will of the divine mind of Lucifer, okay, leading them to seek the golden dream of ruling all. This has morphed into the ideas of what the jinn do. Their thing is to inspire people to speak into the leader's ear the will of the fallen deities. Therefore, because of all this, whoever was running the show back in the day, in ancient times, the entities that were running the show, that was simply lost in the pages of history. You got to do some digging, and you'll find out what I say is true. You got to do some digging, you'll find out that's what they did. And so now we are so enlightened that we don't need that. That's all superstition. However, economist Adam Smith, I read Adam Smith, laissez-faire, capitalism, and all that stuff. Adam Smith called there said that there was an invisible hand when he described markets in the emerging merchant class and attaining of wealth to help formulate governments. Did I get that right? If you guys know Adam Smith, did I get that sentence right? That's basically what he did. All ruled by some sort of unseen hand. The ancient Sumerians described the unseen hand as spiritual entities, the jinn and the yumu. In fact, the book of Daniel, chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar's dream, exposes this unseen hand in the manipulation to establish a world governmental system, a golden-headed dream on a silver body of redemption, and we're going to free the prisoners and all, Cyrus. And then built on the thighs and the midsection. Think what body parts are there to impregnate the world to become Hellenized, be all one mind and heart, Hellenized, all become Greek. And the iron, 2 iron legs, ancient Rome, pragmatism, law. We'll talk about that in a minute, and how the deities, how the state included these deities in their governance of power. I'll explain that in just a second. And then you have the feet made of clay and iron, and they do not adhere to each other. And I won't get into that part. And then Daniel's dream, they see this huge rock, and a part of the rock breaks off and smashes that Hummer to pieces. That's the golden-headed dream of world domination through 4 stages. Will to achieve power to control all. Silver, love and harmony. Bronze, impregnate the world in unity, Hellenize. How do you get there? Iron, order out of chaos. Feet of clay and iron speaks for themselves. You have to shape the clay, mix the 2 together. I won't get into all that. Just a little idea there. The word government is from the Latin word guban. I think I'm pronouncing it guban, Guban, which was borrowed from the Greek Kyberon. I always say Kyberon, but everyone says that's wrong. So I have to watch my accent. Kyberon, not Kyberon. It means to steer a ship. Thus, a guban, as government means to steer, direct, to govern, to control the rudder of a ship, to control nation states, to control the direction where they go. So a government steers the people where they want to go. That is the basic concept of ancient Rome. Okay? Government implies steering, not so much leadership, but steering. But it means guiding the rudder to a certain destination. You heard the Canadian Prime Minister recently speak of a new world order, didn't you? They're saying it out loud now. They're saying the quiet part out loud. World Economic Forum, global governance. Yeah, the WEF talks about global government. Back of the United States dollar bill is they have the phrase, I'll put it up here on the screen, the new order of the age. Novus Ordinum Seclorum. I just kind of simplified what it's saying. The very few at the top is hidden knowledge. Annuit Copus, he has favored our undertaking, Lucifer, the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, to use the dumb bricks below who don't know they're being used to build the new order of the age. Pretty simple. It's there, but I don't know how many people see it. So others say, over the years, a rules-based order, like through the Biden administration, Kamala Harris will say, we're establishing a rules-based world order. Or they used to call it a liberal world order. General Willy-nilly Millie would say, we must establish the liberal world order. We must reassert its dominance. Well, that's global government. The UN. Why do you think that's there? I think the UN is the footstool for the actual takeover to come. That's just this is how they set up the League of Nations first. That failed. UN will probably fail, and from the ashes rises the phoenix of global governance. All this goes back to the Sumerian pre-flood mythology of the 7 divine Akapalu, who were assigned to kings and leaders and rulers to help guide human destiny to a certain destination. Each of the 7 had a myriad of helpers to assist them in teaching civilization, farming, and all that stuff before the Great Flood. For example, in ancient Egypt, this idea was seen and chronicled. At Pharaoh's coronation, for example, when he was coronated as king or Pharaoh, a falcon spirit supposedly descended into the body of the new king to govern and guide him, making him both God and man. He had to be worshipped. And to protect this God and man mix, they wore this serpent, this cobra head on there. You've seen those cobra heads over, those crowns with the cobra heads on them. That represents the triple goddess, the old crone, the Mother Earth, and Inanna, in Mesopotamian, Isis in Egyptian, same entity, the triple goddess who wants to breed and bring back this entity out of the abyss that was assigned there, called Shamesh, or Utu, the sun deity, who Alice Bailey and the Theosophists called the silent watcher, whom all the world waits to come to rule the world, I'm paraphrasing, and who's almost sinlessly perfect, whom all the world waits with bated breath for him to solve all the problems of the world, creating a new world religion on top of it as well. So this stuff is ancient as the hills. Okay, I'm just showing you real fast, Reader's Digest, super condensed version here. This is what they were doing at Pharaoh's coronation, this falcon spirit. This is mocking things that God does with the dove. Now, the dove landing on Jesus was far in the future from Pharaoh, but you don't know how these entities work. You need to put the pieces together. Put it simply, Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, thereabouts. It talks about, that God said to Eve, because of your transgression, that you have problems in childbirth. I won't get into that, but your seed will crush the serpent's head. So the devil knew the plan was to bring somebody was going to come to crush the serpent's head. He was going to stop it. How? By mimicking it and falsifying it through the ancient pagan religions to throw people off so they do not accept the Lord God Almighty or Jesus later on. People don't think the devil's that smart. And I said this before, and again, you do not have to believe a thing I say. I did die. I did have an after-death experience. And I don't try to sensationalize it. I really don't. But I learned something from that experience, is how deceptive these entities are, especially the ones I saw in the abyss, hell, the pit, call it the pit, the bottomless pit. And it's only by God's mercy and His grace that I was even allowed to come back. So I do owe Jesus Christ my life. And there. I just wish I can just really hammer that home, how deceptive these are, and give you illustrations of the deception, which I am doing right now in a camouflage kind of way. But maybe someday I can really do a teaching on it. I don't know. Well, after Pharaoh died, the same spirit transferred into his next in line, usually the firstborn son or some prince or something, and down the line. Usually was the firstborn. That's why the firstborn son of Pharaoh and the firstborn of Egypt died. If they weren't covered under the blood, they died, because it says in the book of Exodus, the judgment was not against the Egyptians, but against the gods of Egypt. The gods of Egypt who want to bring this person, inhabit a human body to take over the world. And back then, it was Pharaoh in the known world at that time, which didn't really happen because everybody was doing the same thing. That's deception. After Pharaoh died, that spirit transferred into the next in line. Therefore, for 3,000 years, approximately at least 3,000 years, maybe a little less, a little more, this was the governing ideology of the Egyptian state, that Pharaoh died, and the spirit transfers over to the next of kin. Okay. And that its ruler was a man with a God inside of him directing his steps. His word was God word. It was the divine right of king's model of governance on steroids, coffee, kava, khat, and coca, and the stuff you make that started with an M. You're all hyped up. So the Romans carried on the same idea in their religion, the legs of iron. The same idea went a step further. Every Roman citizen had a personal spirit attached to him or her called a genius or genius. And it simply means intelligence. They had an intelligent spirit assigned to them. They had this festival, and I taught on it before now. The name of the festival escapes me, but they had a big feast where they bring out their household deities, and they build a feast for them, and they put it in the marketplace, and they all bring their families, bring these clay statues and figurines, food. They have this big whoop-de-doo party. Okay, a lot of orgy stuff went on, all kinds of stuff went on. They were inviting genus spirits, ancestral spirits, to inhabit them. So they thought. It's some festival they had. Look it up. A Roman citizen had a personal spirit attached to him called a intelligent spirit, a genus. And all these household deities they had expresses this. Next, the Roman emperors had their own special personal intelligent genus, spirit about them, intelligent as spirit, and some intelligent spirit enabling them to govern and rule as gods for the betterment of the empire. The spirit intelligence genus made the Roman emperors the sole legal official of the Roman Empire. He was God inhabited him, whispering in his ear and also through his other people counseling him. Okay. Thus, if you refuse to bow, worship, or burn incense to the emperor's genus, his image, this intelligent spirit, was considered treasonable and punishable by death, and many Christians died because they would not bow their knee. Now you might understand why they would not do that to save their own hide. Because in the Romans' eyes, he was a man with a God inside that was directing all his steps. I'm going someplace with this. Because of the forces operating through him from the deity, he was the state, and the state was him, and thus the state was sacred. In other words, the fascist state system was supreme. We see it in communism. The state is supreme. We see it in totalitarianism. The state is supreme. You see it in the Democratic Party. The state is supreme. You see it in your labor and liberal parties. The state is supreme. Government is supreme. They decide all matters. This is where that comes from. Keep tracking with me. Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, Carl Jung, a Swiss psychoanalyst, which I had to read a lot in social sciences and social work, and I was in college, postulated that the gods are personified psychic forces. You know, the Star Trek force. Jung described this as a psychic inflation, or a psychic inflation, infection, or something like that. And when these psychic forces overtakes a person, there's an archetypal divine spark of energy overwhelms them so completely that the persons believe that they become the force itself. This is basic. To sum it up, it's Hermeticism. It's called Kabbalah. I've been talking about the Kabbalah. I'm talking more about it later. But the Kabbalah is primarily is a conglomeration of a bunch of junk that became hermetic, and it's just a view that God, the divine mind, created everything and forgot. He became part of everything, every tree, rock, nook, cranny, and every person, every bug, every insect has a God spark in him. And so the idea of it is you got to bring everything back into unity from the material world to reach back to the spiritual world. And you have to do it through the energies, the spark within the divine. And you realize that you are part of the divine and that you are a little God in God class. Then you put God back together. And according to some branches of Hermeticism, you become the Holy Spirit in the feminine form. You become united to Sophie. I won't get into all that, but that's in a nutshell. I won't get any more than that. That's a real rudimentary, broad brush painting. So there's a lot more I could say on that, but I'm just giving you the basics on that. So Jung talked about psychic forces that overtakes a person with this spark of energy so completely that the person believed that they become the force, they become the God. This is seen in kings and emperors and political tyrants in all ages. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes, I can't remember who said that, but whoever said it, I'm quoting whoever said it. Because, as Carl Jung describes, that when a person is so infused by the force, they lose track of their own will, their own personality is drowned in the force of achieving power at all cost. Sounds like James Carville, doesn't it? Who recently pontificated that what we need is to destroy Magna, destroy the American people, have a one-party system, open borders, alter your kids at will, have foreigners dictate and oppress you because you live in a country that was a colonizing country, which is no longer. Learned their lessons about it, doesn't work. But that doesn't matter. You have to pay it back to the foreigners who are allowed to colonize you, because they need these people to be the enforcers, like the Pazuzus, to keep you in line. They need to colonize you with collective love, group conformity, group control. So we have this perfect world, and they have to use force, physical Pazuzus, religion, with jinns. Think about it, to use force to dominate you. They don't realize that the Pazuzu religion is going to dominate them. It failed in Iran when they tried it, but they don't think that way. These people are possessed. They don't understand stuff. So when a person is so infused, as Carl Jung would say, their personality drowns itself in becoming the force itself. Luke Skywalker, may the force be with you. May that make sense to you better now. Very youngish. Jesus' words about the thievery of the devil rings true, recorded in John 10:10. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. Where we are being led worldwide is by this unseen hand, okay, that kills, robs, and destroys. Just as Adam Smith, the economist, called it, identified it as an invisible hand. I didn't put this up there, but I had it. I should have put the slide up. I had it ready, but I didn't put it up there. Woodrow Wilson said there was an unseen hand of government behind him. Several other world leaders talked about unseen hand of government working behind them. Look it up. It's a matter of historical fact. Ancient Sumerians describe the unseen hand of spiritual entities called the jinn or the yumu, whispering in the ears on how to govern, to steer everything into a particular direction. In fact, the book of Daniel, chapter 2, Neb's dream exposes this unseen hand in the manipulation to establish a world governmental system, a one world governmental system. The world, after all, you got to remember, The word government comes from the Latin and the Greek word that meaning to steer a ship, and government means to steer, to control the rudder of a ship. So government implies steering, not so much about leadership. I'm going to repeat this again. It's guiding the rudder to a certain destination, a one world type of government. Liberals, the labor parties, the leftists, Marxists, socialists, fascists, the political Democrats, the social Democrats can fail and fail and fail because they must burn the system to the ground to build back a more better, inclusive, diverse, equitable, collectivist world of global government. So you'll see these people rabid. They will not listen to reason. You cannot reason with them. That is a sign of mass possession. Excuse me. This is what they do. They use cunning lies. They use a narrative in order to steal, kill, and destroy for the common good of humanities. All who oppressed are classed as vermin. When this stage is reached as a theosophical society, Guru Alice Bailey said in Mass Possession by the year 2025 rocks. And let me just bring that up here. Where did I have it? Oh, a couple quotes from Alice Bailey. What's the wrong one? Okay, it's this one. Alice Bailey. Oops, that's not it. Where is it? It's over here. I got so many slides up here. Externalization of the hierarchy on page 191. Thus, a great new movement is proceeding. I hope you can read that. I should have darkened that. And tremendously increased interplay and interaction is taking place. I put the T in the wrong place. This will go on until AD 2025. During the years intervening between now and then, a very great changes will be seen taking place. And at the great General Assembly of the Hierarchy, held as every century in 2025, the date in all probability will be set for the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy. The present cycle from now until that date is called technically the stage of the forerunner. It is preparatory in nature, testing in its method, and intended to be revelatory in its techniques and results. You can see, therefore, that the Koan's master initiates world disciples and aspirants affiliated with the hierarchy are all at this time passing through a cycle of great activity. In the adjustment necessitated by the rapidly advancing alignment, the members of the hierarchy are fitting themselves for the objective work of public expression. Public expression. First, as I said in 2020 in my Mass Possession by the year 2025 video, first expression is mass possession of the governments and leadership, and you'll see it filter into groups of people who are a mob who cannot be reasoned with. You'll see it in your family members. It is an overshadowing type possession that will lift off the person temporarily. Just say, I'm a conservative, and you'll be very soon, you'll be very fortunate to walk out of your own family reunion alive, because they go unhinged. Unhingedness is the evidence of possession. They lose their faculty of reasoning. The spirits take over them. And then it lifts off of them, and they're all functional, and they're all nice and all that, and they go off in the deep end. We're seeing it. We're witnessing it. Go to an ICE demonstration and see it. Just watch it on TV. Don't go to it. See an Antifa thing. Yeah. Have just say that you are a real journalist, and the government, California's government is making a petition or something, or trying to pass into law to outlaw a journalist from exposing fraud. Isn't that nuts? It's called possession. It's irrational. It's power for power's sake. Got to get power. We got to wipe out the opposition because we need to create a brand new world of perfect harmony. This is the externalization of the hierarchy. Begins that way. Fitting themselves for what? Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong thing. In the adjustment necessitated by rapidly advancing alignment, members of the hierarchy are fitting themselves for objective work of public expression. Page 191 of Externalization of Hierarchy continue, and I quote, "The hierarchy is therefore along with the lines of many of which I may not indicate or upon which I may not enlarge, preparing itself for the expression on the physical manifestation." What happened after 2025, now in 2026? Disclosure, all about these ancient aliens and so forth are taking hold to prepare for the hierarchy. And people who have encountered these things and documented that they are liars are not listened to. We have scientists that have died and disappeared who are working on some of this stuff. Mr. Trump President Trump is going to disclose a lot of this stuff. It's coming out. We had sci-fi and space movies and invasion movies, and so people are now prepared that this is in all probability these things will appear. In the meantime, they're all geared for one goal, a one world government. And they're helping the leadership worldwide to achieve that. That's a tall order to try to explain. Let me read further. It was so endeavoring to create the needed responsive apparatus which will be of such nature that the members of the hierarchy may function with minimum of difficulty on earth and will experience the latest possible measures and will experience let me read it again. I hate dyslexia. It is also endeavoring to create the needed responsive apparatus which will be of such a nature that members of the hierarchy may function with minimum of difficulty on earth and will experience the least possible measure of handicap. They will thus be enabled to give full time and attention to the work to be done by them in physical manifestation. They are endeavoring to establish a closer telepathic rapport and a more intimate, though strictly impersonal relationship with their disciples on all rays of initiation, that's what she means, so that there can be a free interplay of thought and a consequent better hierarchical integrity, and one which, no matter what may happen in the three worlds, cannot be disrupted or any way lessened. She talks about three worlds. I'm going to talk more about the four worlds of Kabbalah. This is three of those worlds that she's mentioning, and I'm not going to go there right now. So the Kabbalah is demonic, okay? I'm just saying it's works oriented. It gets you off in la la land, and you never get anywhere. You're constantly trying to achieve something, and you never get there. There's three forms of Kabbalah. There's the spell with a K, the Babylonian Hebraic version they borrowed from Babylon, the spell with a C, the Christian Kabbalah, known as Hermetic and Gnostic, and then you have a spell with a Q. That's the occult version. It's the same thing, same tree of life with the same garbage associated with it, spell casting and all that. But that's what that. But look at it. They're endeavoring to establish a closer telepathic rapport and more intimate, though strictly impersonal relationship with their disciples on all rays, so that they can be a free interplay of thought and consequent better hierarchical integrity, and one which, no matter what may happen in the three worlds, cannot be disrupted anyway, lessened. They're going to teach through the occult world of theosophy, which is in its headquarters, is next to the UN. They have a library in the UN. It is the brain trust of all the occult knowledge in the world. It is the crux of Luciferianism and Kabbalistic thought. It's the brainchild of the brain trust. The what is it? H.G. Wells talked about the world brain, or was that Orson Welles? I don't know. I can't remember. No, H.G. Wells. The world brain. Peace, safety, integrity. Okay. And so this is what they're going for. Why do we have this on the back of the dollar bill? You got to ask questions. Who has favored their undertakings to build a new order of the age? Who asked us? They don't. We're vermin. Anyone who opposes them is vermin. They need to be exterminated. Hope this makes sense to you and might explain why you're seeing some of your relatives go off the deep end, and seeing people on the TV going off the deep end, and you see what people are running against, and you also have controlled opposition going at the same time, which I'll talk about later as a two-pillar system, which I've talked about amply before. But if you haven't heard it, just wait till I talk more about it when I talk about the occultic, devilish Kabbalah. Kabbalah is plural. But I'm just saying. And how do they achieve this? How do they get there? How do they achieve this part? Whoops! I get that slide out of there, Brian. Why'd I hit it? Okay, they are endeavoring to establish closer telepathic rapport, no matter what may happen in the three worlds that cannot be disrupted in any way. So how do they get there? So Alice Bailey writes in Initiation Human and Solar by Alice Bailey, page 45 PDF. C groups are in the process of being esoterically anchored in the field of the world, having in them those who can respond to the subtler forces who can, through strength of their clear thought at this stage of proceedings, produce those conditions within the present existing world trends and world groups which will enable the new sciences, the new approaches to divinity, the new education, the new modes of handling economic situation and political problems to precipitate and further the growth of the kingdom of God in such a manner that this fifth kingdom in nature may be tangible, factual, and objective occurrence upon the earth. This is the language of Noah Harari and Mr. Klaus Schwab and the WEF. So what's the point of what I'm trying to say? I think it's obvious what I'm trying to say. This is why the Canadian Prime Minister recently spoke about that New World Order and why they all talk about global governments. See, the ancient Sumerian kings understood that governance was not in the hand of themselves, but who was speaking into their ear was governing them, this unseen hand. Something is whispering in their ears. We have people of the elite class going to the Bohemian Grove, going to Epstein's Island, and meeting in secret different places and different organizations and secret societies around the world. And you have people at the small group at the top whispering into the ear, okay? Something is whispering into the ear, leading to the same end as the old Nebuchadnezzar's dream speaks of, a one world system of government. It's a golden-headed dream. You can have it all. You come in wearing silver, and like Cyrus, you come as a redeemer, and you set people free, and it's all about establishing your right hand rule strong, but you make your left hand do all the work, that type of thing. The left hand does the dirty work. The right hand is the righteous hand, and works, plays both sides. And then establishment of the torso area, the thighs, torso, to impregnate the world in Hellenism, as the Greek kingdom would do in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, to Hellenize the world and make everybody think the same thoughts, happy thoughts. And then the legs of iron. And these people are enthusiastic about it, so that any rage against their machine can no longer be possible, just like Alice Bailey said. No matter what may happen in the three worlds cannot be disrupted or any way lessened. I'm not making this up. The documents are there to prove it. You just have to do a little digging. The ancient Greek word that's translated in our English word to be enthusiastic meant to have a God inside you directing your destiny. Be enthusiastic means you're taken over by a spirit. We don't mean that in our modern language, being enthusiastic. This means to be driven to excellence or to achieve the best for somebody or something. You know nothing about a deity living inside of you. But ancient Greeks did teach that to be enthusiastic meant to have a God inside you directing your destiny, aka theosophy. Brings that point out very well. So this is one reason why you see leftists are so enthusiastic to protest ICE, lobby for abortion, fake being a moderate and rule like a dictator in Virginia, subvert the rule of law. We're getting evil with those evil Republicans. To get their calls for priming the population, creating a genus in them, a spirit, an intelligent spirit, to get to the sixth ray of initiation, this new genus, this new spirit, intelligent spirit inside them, to guide their intelligence to be all of one mind. The state is supreme. You have to crush and dominate in order to get there. You have to make people in the population feel so helpless. I can't do anything. Saul Alinsky said that you must, in order to do this, you must absolutely deceive the people, to make them believe that you have all the power and they have none. You have more power than you have. If you confront them to their face, they will cower like wimps. But when they can give a force of dominance by controlling the arts, entertainment, news media, which they do, that's why nobody says, I can't trust the mainstream news in any country in the Western civilization. I can't trust any of it. It's all propaganda, all pushing one party rule. Seed groups. Yeah. The Democrat strategist James Carville's statement that he wanted one party rule. If they get back into power, they throw away the filibuster, they stack the Supreme Court, so the Republicans will never ever have a chance to come back again, and thus we save democracy. We live in a republic. The democracy they want is those at the top and the middlemen making all the money, and you have a bunch of serfs below. You have this. Those at the top favor their undertaking to use the dumb bricks below, don't know what they're doing, to build this new order of the age of prosperity for those who are separated from the masses through the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, who are promised to rule it all. What else can I say? James Carville expressed that same sentiment, getting in trouble for it, and he needs to be pushed back. In my vernacular of my day and his day, you got to punch him in the mouth. We used to call it, we got to give somebody a severe, you-know-what whipping. Knock the air out of them. Get their heads out of the cloud. Not to destroy them or to be mean, but to knock some sense into them. You ain't in charge, buddy. We don't want you. So they prime the population through the use of seed groups. Seed groups, they infiltrate genus spirits to control people in charge of media, arts, entertainment, government, psychology, education. They restructure the family dynamics. They eradicate the family and replace it with a global family, a village raises a child type thing, all wokeism and stuff like that. So they prime the population to accept this or else. You are a colonizer. You have a colonial background, so we have to have these people come in to oppress you so you know what it's like. So we are producing social justice. No, you're a colonizer, you communist bonehead. You are the colonizer. You are the tyrant. You are the oppressor, not me, you. So shut up. You got to throw this stuff back in their face. I mean, it's the only way. You're not going to talk sense to any of them because you're dealing with people who are overshadowed, possessed, right in the head 1 minute, then whacked out in the next minute. Soon they'll be whacked out, full-time possessed. According to the occult writings, I just read some of them. So they have to produce this narrative of dominance, that they control everything and they are the power. They have all the power. You have none. And you are the enemy. You are classed as Psychology of Genocide, Massacres, and Extreme Violence. Donald Dutton, who wrote that, said the common perception of totalitarians is that their target group are vermin or a virus. I don't consider those that oppose me, liberals and stuff, as vermin. I don't consider them as enemies, scum. I don't. I view them as human beings lost. They need salvation. Unfortunately, they're so deep in doo-doo, they ain't going to get it. They're going to be swimming laps in the lake of fire. But what can I say? most common people, common sense people like myself and you are listening. They're not our, we don't view them as enemies. We used to have debates and have discussions, and it was really cool to have. And we usually won, but they don't want to have a discussion or debate anymore. They want to dominate. They view us as vermin. You got to understand that they're getting into the level of switching over into nut jobville. This is predicted, and God foreknew what would happen in a sinful world going this direction, that this would happen, and it's prophesied that it will happen. The Antichrist and its system the Antichrist system comes first, then the Antichrist will come and make war against the saints, those tribulation saints coming out of the tribulation, the Christians who missed the rapture. I know people don't believe in the rapture. Or you believe? I believe in a partial rapture, and those who don't make it, they have to go through it. Then you have you don't have to agree with me on that at all. That's fine. I don't have any beef. I'm not trying to prove a point. I'm just saying this is what I derived out of much research and study, and you can derive whatever you want. But anyway, the point of the whole matter is that these people are reaching this state of total nut jobness, of dominance. They name call, like I say, they name call us as colonialists, fascists, Nazis, for just having a live and let live attitude, wanting limited government. We don't want, we want a small government. We want free markets so all can prosper and work with their hands. We don't view everything as on the accordance of race and critical thinking. We don't think that way. It's not about race. Nothing was handed to me for free. I grew up in an era and time when I getting into the workforce, we were in the middle of a recession for 10 years. Actually, from 76 or 77 on up to the latter part of 1980s, 88. I couldn't find work. I traveled across country to Tucson, Arizona to find work. Went to Salt Lake City to find work and found none there. Tried this place, that place, that place. Had to go back home, unfortunately. I didn't like it. I had to live with my parents for a brief time until I bummed up enough money because I got a job doing electrical work, doing restoration of fire damage and water damage of electrical stuff, burned out buildings with asbestos. Back in the day before asbestos was even considered bad. And so I did that, got enough money and moved back out. And I ended up in Fort Collins. And this is where I live now and made a go of it. It was hard work. Nobody gave me nothing. Not because of the color of my skin. Get over it. And I don't give a rat's rear end about the color of their skin, and you shouldn't either. If it's all about race and you think that you're so down out, I am of a mixed race. I got every race inside of me. So who am I going to pay reparations to? Myself? I got slaves in me, Portuguese slaves. I got probably some blacks, Africans. I got some Middle East stuff. I got European. I'm a Heinz 57. Even have Native American in me. Who am I going to pay reparations for? You're going to do it on the matter of race. Let's go back and look at my my DNA code. I can prove it. It ain't about race, you idiot. Grow up. You communist, fascist, totalitarian colonizer wants to destroy national heritage and people. You are the oppressor. You are the colonizer, not me. And you are possessed, by the matter of fact. People who want free markets, free, just, and moral people to come back again, like it used to be, where, I remember living down in my grandparents' farms. I was amazed that nobody locked their doors. Everybody knew each other. They're in the middle of nowhere, not middle of nowhere, but out in the boondocks. And I go into town, and people didn't lock their doors either in Pound, Virginia, at the time I was growing up. Went down there to get away from the insanity of the D.C. area that I lived in, and loved it. Peace and quiet, and farm work. I loved it, and culling chickens and all that stuff. All that stuff was fun. Do a little hunting. on a deer hunt, and the deer jumped over and almost ran me over. I'll never forget that. I almost got ran over by a herd of deer on the run. I heard them coming, and it's funny. But anyway, I love that time. I love that. One of the moral, just people. We didn't have to lock your doors. People who love their country, who want the best for everybody that's in the country. We don't want foreigners in here who do not want to assimilate. We want real legal migration, and not illegal where they tell us how to live and submit to their will in order to punish us for things we did not do. So people will browbeat you, and yet they are the colonizers who are eradicating national identity, social cohesion, your way of life, erasing it to make serfs and slaves out of you. Isn't that amazing? So all these people are the new colonists, subjugating the world into a global government. Like I showed you, Alice Bailey. H.P. Blavatsky, and I didn't bring the slides up, talked about overshadowing, just like I described it. And Alice Bailey said there are overshadowed people in halls of political power and government who whisper into the ears of government leaders. There were 7 of them, she mentioned. I forgot to put that slide up here. I showed it before in my videos. And that was back in the 50s. No, not the 50s, but in the 30s and 40s, in the late, up to 1948 when she died. She talked about these were already in here, and they were whispering into the ears of governments. The UN was established for this purpose, to be whispering into the people's ears. So they talk about this, how this overshadowing works to overshadow the entire population, so they become in the Roman idea of the genus, spiritual entities inhabiting them, the spark of the divine, to embrace this new ideology. This new ideology that they want is a collective world of group love, group conformity, and group control. It's Alice Bailey's words that she channeled. That robs through redistribution of wealth, robs of that. You steal away one's humanity. You rob children of being a child by altering them. That kills, murders, hopes, dreams, and freedom. The ability to kills the ability to disagree, slaughters any ability to debate, and slaughters reason and common sense, and replaces these with a lunatic fringe reality built on fabrications, just like Mao did, just like Stalin did. Mao did so. He said that we have this great leap forward. The sparrows are eating all the seeds on the field, so let's kill all the sparrows. That created a bunch of bugs and locusts, and it developed into the biggest famine you could see. Nobody knew how to make steel, but Mao says that you all will make steel, and they made poor quality metals and stuff. It didn't matter. The state is always right, never wrong. It's a lunatic reality. Khmer Rouge, Cambodia, man, alternate reality. How your Fabian socialist up there in the UK and worldwide, a lunatic reality. How else can you explain it other than mass possession beyond the year 2025? That destroys and ruins goodness, decency, seeks to destroy objective truth and objective morality of right and wrong. All this is the same plan, the same idea as the devil and his minion to kill, rob, and destroy folks. These are the principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, hosts of wickedness in the high places that are doing this, moving human agents to act accordingly, whispering in their ear. And they're doing so not through, they do so through an elite class, to certain people, to garner the ear of political people, infiltrate, get them on the gravy train. This is where we are at. This is setting the stage for the Great Tribulation. This is end time stuff. This is in closing. I'll read this. Second Timothy chapter 3. But know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come. And there's a word down here that talks about steering a ship and reaching the last port of call. There's a word in here. Perilous times will come in the last days. In the last days, the last port of call, last days began on the day of Pentecost when 120 people got baptized and by tongues of cloven fire and they spoke in languages and all that, all the way to the very last extreme, last of the last call, the ship docked, pulled off, you're stuck here, you reach the Gadarenes. You know there's fierceness ahead. There's no way back. Your back is against the wall. Perilous times, demonized times, perilous times. Many people interpret and explain the meanings of all these words better than I can, will come. In the light of what I just said about overshadow type of possession, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good. Yeah, remember, anybody who's good is vermin. Traitors, yep. Headstrong, absolutely haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, and from such people turn away. Having a form of godliness. This could be in the church, also in the secular world, a form of godliness. The Kabbalah, the divine spark within, the divine mind. You are a little God in God class. From such people, turn away. We are approaching the last port of call, folks, on a worldwide scale. If this was just our country, I wouldn't worry about it so much. Or over in Europe, we can recover. But you got the whole Western world, and you have all this going on. You have a controlled opposition going on, the traitors going on. You have a form of godliness going about with the New Age movement, meditation, being a better you. It's all about self-actualization, self-love, self-exploration. All open doors for the being possessed. Totally. When I look at the last days, the only way I can describe in the book of Tribulation why God would always call out to the people, repent, turn back to me, just turn away from this stuff. And they absolutely, all of them refused. That is a sign of a possessed population. Literally. No ability to reason, no ability to think. Preparing for the one to come known as the Antichrist. I'll read this verse to you too. 2 Thessalonians. Now, brethren, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be so soon shaken in mind or troubled either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, though the day of Christ had come. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the apostasy falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Do you not remember that when I still was with you, I told you these things? He sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. He is the God in the man to rule the world. And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. the Holy Spirit that resides within us, is restraining the evil. The church is to restrain the evil. When the church weakens, the rapture is close. But we're out, but I actually beginning to think the church is going to be strengthened. The real remnant church will be strengthened, and many people will come into the kingdom of God and be zapped out of here, and the rest who don't want to believe are left here. That's kind of what I'm thinking this means, but I can't prove it. This is my opinion. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work, and only he who now restrains will do so until he's taken out of the way. Then the lawless one will be revealed, from whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie. It's what you want. You got it. You don't want the love of the truth. You want to alter the objective reality and truth. Look where it leads to. The devil comes to kill, rob, and destroy. Jesus came to give life and life abundantly. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Do I have anything else here? Well, folks, I'm going to wrap that up right there. So put your thoughts and comments down. I'll go to the live chat and look at it real briefly. But I hope you got something good out of this. Hope I made it simple enough for you to understand. Sometimes you have to make things simple. You got to avoid all the details. And trust me, I'm this type of person who does research. I get very technical, and I can explain everything and go all over the place. By the time I get to my point, I lost you. I can't do that. Upper level class will go into that, but okay. So with that, if you'd like to contact me, I'm going to stay on if you want to do the live chat. I'll be on there in a second. So before, if you don't want to hang out, you can sign off now. If you'd like to contact me, website information, email is all there. And my PayPal is there too. Hopefully soon I'll get my new website up. And someone is going to actually help me with that, because I really need that, a new website. And that's going to be a blessing. But anyway, I have email coming and my PayPal if you'd like to support what I do and keep me on the air. If God so leads you to give, please do. If not, that's okay. I don't force anyone to give. I don't beg for money at all. So it's all up to you. If you want to use PayPal, you can. If not, that's okay. My books, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion, and Heaven Beckons. I'm writing my third book, and I'll get it finished hopefully sooner rather than later. It's kind of hard to say, because when my wife passed away, I kind of dropped off for a while writing on it. And I got to pick it back up. And, trying to overcome some of the, it's hard to go anywhere in town, or I've been going places, but it's hard to take a walk, because everywhere we walk, my wife and I got too many memories, wonderful memories with me and my wife. As they used to say, you're two peas in the same pod, man. You guys flow so good together. Yeah, we sure did. That's what 36 years of being married does to you. And you realize what it means. You're two separate people, but you're one flesh. You learn what that actually means. And you're bound together by a love that I can't even explain. And now she's gone. So I grieve, because grieving is an act of love. And I'm getting, don't think I'll ever get over it, but I'm getting better. But anyway, that's beside the point. I'm going to go to the live chat. Look at what's on here. Boy, we have Jason's here. Yeah, Jason, I got that video. I was going to comment. That was a good video of that of that woman pastor thing. That was excellent. That was great. Valid points all the way around. Sort of how my wife taught why there shouldn't be women pastors. There should be women teachers. They're all over the church. They can do a lot of things, but being over a church congregation, there's a reason for that. My wife would say, in her vernacular, women can be vindictive and catty, and they love to be worshipped. Really? Well, she would know. She was a woman. That's when she had trouble going to women Bible studies, because it ended up not studying the Bible. They're talking about purses. She wanted to read the Word. My wife was into the Word. She studied the Word. She was in it. She prayed constantly. She was a woman of God. She didn't fit in with some of this other stuff. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, that was a good video, Jason. Ladies, don't get mad at me. I'm just saying what my wife said. You can probably agree to that, maybe. Yeah, you can be teachers. You can do all that. You can even preach in front of a congregation. You got something to say. But running a church, an assembly, should not be part of the task. It says in the Bible, their women were prophets. They had Paul knew a woman or some man whose daughters were prophetess. They were prophets. That's on the scale. That's higher above a pastor. But what do I know? Ashley's here. How you doing, Ashley? Yep, Ashley, you said it better than I can. You always do. You have that ability. We are in a very real spiritual existence. Doesn't help to put our heads in the sand. We need to learn what we're dealing with. And that's what was my point tonight, is so that people will learn what they're dealing with. Get a little moxie. They want to call you colonial, say, what are you doing? I did this in my social science and in my social work classes, because my degree was in social work with the criminal justice emphasis. And so I got these avowed Marxist professors who profess to be Marxist communists. And I talked back to them. You're a colonizer. Don't you think your system has to eat its own self and just self-destruct because you become the oppressor, you become the colonizer? And they didn't have anything to answer to that. I thought that was wonderful. I just threw it back in their face. Their critical theory, I just used critical theory in reverse on them against their own ideas. And years later, I run into this guy named James Lindsay, who is doing pretty much the same thing. You either like or dislike James Lindsay. He's what he is. He's what he is. He does a good job at what he does, and leave him alone. I just pray for that he gets saved. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I don't know. But yeah. But he I'll probably touch this a little bit more. I'm talking about on a worldwide scale, but the nefarious is you'll ask people to watch the movie Nefarious, because it actually is pretty accurate. A lot of oppression and possession happens in childhood trauma. Absolutely. I have dealt extensively a lot of ritual abuse, literal ritual abuse cases. Not by looking for it. The people needed help, and talking to them and doing, like we call it, pre-deliverance thing. And everybody has their different ways of pre-deliverance. And I like to learn every bit of it because it's all valid. And I like to learn all different techniques. And there's just tools in the toolbox. So we go to pre-deliverance, and we notice this about the ritual abuse and the memories that come back from it and what it does to a person. They become literally go through the 4 stages and finally full possession. And when you're confronting the demonic spirit in them, you will see their face contort into a hideous face. They can be inhabited by thousands of critters. Those are just minions, little minions that are designed to swat away any attempt at deliverance. Well, you have to go after the strong man, the ones in charge. The others will distract you, talk incessantly and challenge you, scream and shriek. So I learned a long time ago, while working with people who knew what they were doing, to tell the stuff to shut up, shut up. You're not going to talk. You're going to come out peacefully. Shut up. You have to leave in the name of Jesus. I'm not putting up with this. And you go at it. And very few people have that ability to go at it. And very few people understand. I call it the flies, all the minions, all the little critters that are inside of a person. No, Legion had at least, he had 2,000 in them that would line up with the 2,000 of the home guard that stayed in the camp, while the 4,000 rotated in and out. So 2,000 would come in, 2,000 go out. That was the idea: get rest and relaxation, and 4,000 police the area. And so that's why, in the if you read the story of the man who was freed of Legion, Jesus says, "Oh, you can't follow me. You're to go into the necropolis and preach and tell everybody what happened." He's going to go in and mop up the other 4,000. Jesus trusted them to do that. Just think about it. To preach the gospel to them, they can be delivered free from this oppression. Think. Yeah. So I've seen people do that countless times. The ritual abuse is all shapes and forms. We had people from the house in Boulder back in the, what was it, 60s or 70s or 50s, 60s, 70s, can't remember, who they practiced on kids and deprivation tanks and stuff. I won't get into all the details. That's my first encounter of that, was back in the early 1980s. One of my first encounters in it. Learning how to do deliverance was dealing with people with that. And it was eye-opening. So yeah, these are what they are. So yeah, childhood trauma, sexual abuse is horrible for a child, can split personalities. When I was studying in the field and learning about it, I was going to go into child protection, but I ended up going in another direction, working in the jail, but then eventually managing treatment teams for the sex offenders themselves. But when I was learning about how children, they go into the room where the children are, and they have a dollhouse with what do you call it, biologically appropriate male and female figures, and the kids will get violent or play act the abuse they suffer, and to see that will break your heart. I ain't cut out for that. Dealing with criminals, yeah, but not too heartbreaking. And thank God for the psychologists and what they do. They help. And thank God for the deliverance ministers who can set people free, the real ones, not the fake. But yeah. Thank you, Ashley, for the kind words. I try. I try. And I want to commend you for doing the same. You're doing the same, equipping the saints too. On a lot of your videos, you're equipping the saints. Keep it up. Oh, Jason is on here. If he's still here, Jason, he talked about Simia Air Base. Your guest really opened it up. His name's Jason Mathis. Jason Mathis. So, yes, the demons do toy with people. They do. Saw a lot of that when I had my after-death encounter, and that saw a lot of that. How they toy with people. You just the depths of the deception is incredible. There he is. Dialogue Conspiracy. There's Jason. Simios was the hotbed of UFO activity in the 1970s. Well documented, too. Yeah. And I'm looking at what you sent me about what her report. I might do a further video on it, Jason, to the other fringes where she talks about some things that are very interesting, but what this thing said. We'll deal with that later. Yep. Tucker Carlson claimed he was scratched by a demonic entity. He hasn't been the same since and has hatred for Israel. He turned against Trump. Duh. Case in point. Checkmate. Look at this free the P movement. You know, they are demon possessed. You got that right. See, you need to interview Dr. Schnuckenbellen. I have an idea. Let me take my phone, see if I can get a picture of that. Okay, took a picture of it. So I'll look up that guy and see who he is, and maybe I will find out if he wants to do an interview. Yeah, the moaning beneath the river of Euphrates. They could be those four creatures, the four demonic entities, the fallen angels, four of them. The Mesopotamian names are Enlil, Enki, Ninhursag, and and Shamash are Utu, the sun deity. The old crones down there, Ninhursag. The Lady of the Mountains. Our Lady of the Mountains and Ninhursag. But that's, yeah. Sorry, I had to throw that out there. But if you know anything about the Mesopotamian deities, you know what I'm talking about. It's a good laugh. I go up to Estes Park, and there's a church up there called Our Lady of the Mountains, and I just think of Ninhursag every time I go by it. Never mind. Shh. Yep. And demonic demons want to manifest their personality through human vessels. I have even seen animals with demons in them. I have too. And so when in doubt or rebuke, ask questions later. Rebuke in the name of Jesus, plead the blood. And yeah, I've seen this. I've seen it. There are demonic beings that look like lizards. There are ones that look like geometric shapes. The ones that I come encounter with and seen myself and on the reservation are geometric shapes of blackness, of tall black shapes. They can take appearance of just about anything, really. When you actually see that stuff, well, you want to go to the reservation with me? I can tell you, and you can drive up there and you go, this place feels very oppressed. There's something don't feel right here. It's kind of spooky. What am I feeling? Critters. Yeah. The Bible says the 30 angels got kicked out of heaven to earth. I wonder how many there are on earth now. Could be billions of them. Alice Bailey channeled in Cosmic Fire. I think it's Cosmic Fire. The fall of the fallen watchers, and how they came to earth and all that from their perspective. She channeled it. If that's true or not, it's all conjecture at this point. But there's some sayings that are remarkable about talking about a flood and talking about certain things that happened and she was channeling this spirit entity, and they said there were billions of them. I can't remember the exact number. I don't think she even knew, but it was billions of them. So yeah. And the idea of the being in the second heaven is, we do not know what range that is. The first heaven is the earth and the general atmosphere up to where the farthest reaches before outer space. That's the first heaven. Second heaven is anything beyond that. The planets, and how far beyond that, I do not know. So these entities, like Jason said, could say they're from Alpha Centauri or they're from the Pleiades. They might be telling half truths. They got kicked out of that place, and then they're down here somewhere, or on some planet, some nearby place, and who knows? It could very well be. We just don't know. So the third heaven is where God's throne is. Okay. There was one by an interview with a guy named Roger Morneau. Okay, I'll look at that guy, Roger Morneau. I'll take a picture of his name. I want to check these guys out. I better just, it's quicker to take a picture with the camera than to write it all out while I'm trying to talk. There. At least my phone is good for something besides being annoying. Gotta look for it. He's on YouTube. It's very old. I'll look him up. Okay, a lot of things. Let's see if there's any questions here. Ashley, he says, the enemy shows no mercy. He is only darkness and there's no light in him. And I've known people that had this happen to. Scratch mark stuff is real, folks. I've seen it. I was shocked to have it happen to me while I was walking, and then realized I was under attack. And this thing was trying to, I don't know what it was trying to do. It was trying to intimidate me, is my impression. My wife had the download on it, and for the life of me, I can't remember what she said. But she prayed it, and I prayed, and whatever it was left. It was trying to kill me. It was what it was doing. Don't like me. I don't like them either, but I do have a respect for their abilities. I don't treat them with contempt at all. I know they are foes, and they don't mess with me. I won't mess with them. I don't go spoiling for a fight. I learned my lesson long ago on that one. But I do what the Lord tells me to do, and I pray, Father, keep me far from the evil one. That's what he said in the Lord's Prayer. Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Do not lead us into temptation. Keep us far from the evil one, or evil one. So just pray that way. It's real. I'm glad you brought to it. I call these people those who have critters possessed. I grew up in the church, and we didn't know what to call them. We just called them critters. It just came out. We had people this person had a lot of critters in them. and even then, I go up to the reservation with the people I work and minister with up there on the res. So one of them, they got a lot of critters. Oh yeah, they got lots of critters. We'll just see if they manifest. They usually do. Interrupt the service or something. But yeah, happens. The only antidote is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. We talk about Tucker Carlson. I had to use him as an Because I was thinking about when I do the 4 stages. Some people say there's 3 stages. Some people say 4 stages. I use the 4-stage thing. Some say 3 stages. So, or I shouldn't say stages. Types of oppression. But anyway, Tucker Carlson is off the rails. So is Candace Owens. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, a long time ago, Tucker Carlson I even liked him because he talked about things and he wasn't afraid to, but then all of a sudden he changed right after he got scratched. I always pondered that. Never got a chance to, I never did, I don't think I would ever have a chance to talk to him about that. Back in the day, if that happened, I would have prayed for him and say, you need to have some deliverance. Get this thing. He probably wouldn't be in the mess he's in now. Yeah, their solutions are always violence. That's a sign of possessed people or infested people or possessed people. They do that. Infested people and possessed people. Oppressed people can still have some sense about them. Oh. The chat won't display my nickname. No, you're Little Shouting for Jesus. Wow, okay. I don't know why. I have no idea why that. Can you go in and change it? I can't change it on my end. There's no way I can change it. Just check on your system, your YouTube thing, and see if there's somewhere in settings to reset your name. Something I can suggest. Yeah, Ashley says this: the devil is the craftiest of them all. We should fear him. I mean, you need to have some respect. Even Michael didn't do a reviling accusation against him, as the Bible says, but we need to know his tactics. So I have a respect for the enemy. I know what they're capable of and what they can do. So I'm not. You just think of a grizzled old World War II veteran or Vietnam veteran who's seen enough of the stuff, and you have a grudging respect for your enemy, but you don't tolerate them when they attack you. You learn to know your enemy so you can defeat them. Velk says, weird question. Does everyone have beards in heaven? Are there some who are clean shaven? I hate to say this, I never really paid attention. I saw a lot of clean shaven people, men up there. Some had beards, and a lot of them didn't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than that, but I never paid much attention to it, really. So I can't give you an honest number who have beards and who doesn't, And Jesus had a beard. So other people did, but some people didn't. I don't know why or the reasons why that is. I don't know. I never much thought about it. I hope that helps. Yeah. God gives us a spirit of power. God does not give us a spirit of fear, but a power, a love, and a sound mind. Those are the things that defeat possession. Do not give us a spirit of fear, but of power over the works of the enemy, authority over them. Love will defeat, and the sound mind that love produces, a sound, broken hearts healed and all that, traumas healed, all that stuff. No longer the same person. It takes time to develop. It can be fast, it can be slow. It's a process. There's a question. Question, BW, did you get a chance to see some of the rewards treasure stored up in heaven for us? That's a good question. I would say probably did, but didn't recognize them when I saw them. But what I did allude to in my book was that our we go through what was known, what the excuse me, theologians would call the Bema Seat judgment, is where all our fluff and stupidity is burned away, and we come into our own, and you'll get the loss of reward, as I would say, what I saw would be, and I can't say definitively, to me, from what I experienced, I would say that your reward is how close you are to the throne of God. King David himself wrote, "Oh, that I may dwell in the courts of the Lord forever. May I look upon he wanted to be close to the throne room as possible." I think that is the reward. That's also illustrated possibly in Revelation chapter 3 in the Philadelphian church, where if they overcome, they'll become pillars in the temple. In other words, they'll be prominent, have a prominent position in their closeness with God. Not, they'll be really close to God. And that is kind of coalesces similar to what I saw. It was people, where my place is closest to the throne, I couldn't tell you, even though I saw it I didn't realize I was seeing it until I came back, and I saw, which I finally identified as my grandfather when he was 30 years old, when my aunt sent me a picture of him. He was a fiery Methodist preacher who came over from Scotland, and came to California, and he was a Spanish-American War veteran. He was involved in some capacity at Azusa Street, probably criticizing it, most likely. And why I say that is later on, near the tail end of the Azusa Street, the Los Angeles Bible Institute, which later became Biola University. Before Biola University used to be called Los Angeles Bible Institute. My grandfather was part of that. R.A. Torrey was the president over that. He was taught by R.A. Torrey. That's why I say that. But my aunt says he spoke in tongues. I know he spoke in Native American language, but in unknown tongues, I don't know. But I did hear him once, and at the old soldier's home, a year or so before he died, he was grabbing me by the head and chewing peas, and the nurse was feeding him, and he spit peas over me, shaking me. I realized he was blessing me, actually. My parents were reacting. Nobody could hardly get his grip off my head. He was a strong old geezer. And spitting peas at me, speaking in a language I had no idea what it was, and I was crying. I was a little tyke. I remember that because it was traumatizing. But he was praying a blessing over me. So who knows what part he played in that. But Azusa Street wasn't all just Seymour and that happened at church there. If you watch, they're still available. Look on YouTube for the eyewitness accounts. I think that was made in the 70s or the late 60s. And they're downtown Los Angeles explaining what happened. There was about a half mile, every church in the city set up shop there, and many of the people that went to these things, they didn't believe in tongues, whatever, they got saved, and power of God fell on them, and many of those people became missionaries. I mean, just go do your own research. That's why I say Azusa Street was actually a move of God. That, like all move of gods, it goes south sometimes by people who want to be the big shots and control it. That's exactly what happened. It's just a matter of historical fact. But so I say the rewards I saw of people who want to be big shots and stuff, get that burned out of them if they're truly born again, and their flaws will be burned away. But if they're truly a hypocrite and A false minister, they're not going that direction. They're going into the abyss, to the pit of hell. But anyway, but that's what I think about the rewards and treasures, your closeness to the throne. I don't think it's like gold or silver. You don't need it there. It's all over the place. There's no commodities or trading or nothing. It's a fantastic place. It's like a working vacation, and you enjoy each other's company. You actually become what God designed us to be as a human being. Originally designed us to be human beings. The fall of man, the fall of humanity into sin through what the devil offered, we lost our humanity, our true humanity. So we have an altered humanity, fragmented, I call it, where we're bound by sin and death and under the sway of the evil one. And Jesus frees us from all that. And you accept him. And he comes back, and part of the sanctification process, as I understand it, is restoring what it means to be human, to make you whole and sound in heart and mind, to heal your crushed spirit, to heal your broken heart, to set the captive free, set you free from your oppression, give you the oil of joy for your spirit of mourning and gladness, giving you those things, training you to be his plantings, his tree of righteousness, his righteousness in your wherever you've been assigned in life, wherever you're at, to provide shade and shelter for people, to build back the waste places that many generations have destroyed. Give life, not death, so forth. Those are just my opinions from what I've learned, and I stick with them as facts. But anyway, that's a bullet point, definitions. In my book, Little Shout for Jesus, the great feast was being prepared, was the wedding hall. And I walked through it. It's big, huge, and you travel. I can't explain how you travel or move. I mean, you can walk a slow amble and arrive at the same time as somebody who arrives there by another means. It's at the same time. It's no eternal time is too hard to explain. There's a flow to it. You can say there's a rhythm to it, but it's not a rhythm as in the occult world's idea of rhythm and sound. That's totally different. It's just a flow. It's not breathing or breath. It's just life. And it's a land of liquid love that produces this life. God is a God of the living. It becomes the reality. He just lives. There's no breath involved, no vibration involved, just a flow of life that rejuvenates you, and you realize you come back into who you were really designed to be before the fall. What he originally intended for us to be, restored. Amazing. Scholars debate about Adam and Eve. They debate. Adam and Eve were covered by the light of God, or the covering. They had a different type of body, and when they sinned, they had we got the flesh, controlled by the flesh. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. This is like Gnosticism. It feeds human pride. The only thing pompous pride will ever bring is destruction. You got that right. This is what the most people don't understand. And I do some witnessing or something. Well, people say, I'm a good person. I don't really need Jesus. I'm good. I don't see why I need Jesus. I don't kill anybody. I don't do anything. And so my answer to them is that, so what are you going to do about Jesus? Why can't you accept Jesus? That's my point. Why do you? Oh, you're a good person. You can't accept Jesus. Jesus just wants your he's presenting you with a choice to accept him, and I explain the gospel and everything to them, so that your goodness might count for something. And they say, no, I don't really want that. And then I usually tell them, oh, were you hurt by a church? Did TV and movies skewed you about the idea of Christianity? Were you in a church where you looked at statues on the wall of the procession of Christ, or the whatever you call it up in the Catholic Church or Eastern Orthodox, of the suffering Christ, and it freaked you out? Do you learn, those are the works of men. They put that stuff, and that's not real true biblical Christianity. Jesus wants to know, what will you do with him? What is keeping you from accepting him? Well, I'm a good person. Well, do me a favor. When you get up in the morning, look in the mirror and tell me how to spell pride. And I'll leave him alone. Just remember, you can accept Christ. You can accept Christ. Maybe they will. Yeah, you can't reason with people. Kookaburra hard enough and the critters come out. I like that one. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I was wondering if the 6G will be the means to control people's minds. Well, it's possible through the idea of energy, aka vibration, sound that we can't hear, can affect you. So it's quite possible to nullify people's sensibilities in some form. They got the I don't know what they call it, a discombobulating bomb, where it discombobulates you through sight, sound, and a release of energy, pulse or something. I don't know how it all works. They've tried it in Venezuela. Yeah. Now they're releasing evidence that they're using lasers to shoot down drones, and they got laser. I'm watching some footage of the U.S. strikes in Iran, and you see the laser beam coming down and exploding a truck. So this is Star Wars. That was not a bomb. That was the truck itself exploded. It wasn't a bomb falling. You can see the bomb falling and the debris going in a certain direction, but this was almost like explodes and implodes. It was a weird thing to watch when it got hit by a laser. I saw that when they hit airplanes with the laser. Interesting energy beam. So yeah, 6G could be, microwavable energy, scramble your brain like eggs. Yeah, things to come to plan. Metropolis is another one. This stuff's been around. They known about it. I wasn't aware of this. I agree with it. Last year, Pope died and Klaus resigned on the same day. I did not know they died and Klaus Schwab resigned the same day. That's very interesting. I think that was a signal for this evil plan to go to the next step. If I'm right, what exactly is that? The discombobulation of the people, psyops, to make you feel like you have no power. They have all the power. It's a play on dominance. It's what's happening. It's the possessed people who are overshadowed before they're totally possessed are implementing this plan for this new world government order of globalism. And they're being very upset because there are people who are resisting, who are not the controlled opposition. And this is all power play to mark who is and who isn't on their side, basically. If you understand Marxist ideology, explains it very well. They want to reach the end of history. They use the Hermetic spiral or the Kabbalah spiral, whatever you want to call it. And to reach the end of history, you keep using critique over and over again. You fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail. And then finally, one day, the whole system burns down. You reach the end of history. So everybody becomes Soviet man, woman. That means you're ruled by a Soviet council. You have the dictator at the top and the Soviet council and the merchants who are making the money. And then you are a serf. Our machines will take your place and don't need as many of you around anyway. So, yeah, that's what their plans. That was 1 year ago today, by the way. I want to check that out. You're probably right. I'm sure you're right. I did not put two and two together. Appreciate that. I'll look into that. Got a lot of questions here, a lot of comments, I mean. Okay. Yeah, we're all the human race. We're all created in the image of God and likeness. That means the likeness and image of God we're created to be under is restored to us by the fruit of the Spirit. That's how we're to govern our world, by the fruit of the Holy Spirit. The Lord is teaching us how to love, joy, peace, righteousness, and goodness, mercy, truth, all this various attributes of God were to shine. That's how we're to govern by. And the devil came and perverted that, inverted it, and with what I just taught on tonight, with the inversion of like Pharaoh being the God and the man, God inside the man. So the devil is just mocking God. You got to understand evil. They literally test, provoke, and mock God to his face. You'll see some of that in the book of Job. You will see it in the first 3 chapters. Putting God to the test. Testing his attributes, pitting them against each other. Does Job fear you for nothing? Mock, 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 mock. You'll see it. Okay. Las Vegas is a good example of demon-filled government. Well, when I drove to the Heavens Encounter conference and drove through Las Vegas, I didn't go in it. I wasn't about to, but drive by some of the towns where these old casinos were that were opulent. They're run-down shells. There's nobody there, and there's a place where about the only place I know where I always had to get gas. It was in a parking lot outside of a casino. The casino is dilapidated, and the gas station's there, but it was like I didn't know if I was going to get shot just getting out of my car. And the people that were there were very nefarious looking individuals. Very rough. It's like, wow, I've been in some rough places, but boy, it was only going to get me out of here. That was Demon Central. Outside of Vegas, about whatever that town is, about 2 or 3 miles from the border. It's on the south, going southbound. It's on the southbound side of the road. There's no one on the north side on the other side of the road. I think that one's still in operation because it looked like it was clean, but I didn't see anybody in the parking lot. Yeah, this is part of it too. And even the elect can be fooled. The many New Agers being promoted by Christians. Got that right. Okay. Norma Lee says, Brian, question. Is the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem and the man of lawlessness to be revealed after the rapture or before? And also, do you believe the day of the Lord is more than one day? Rebuilding of the temple and the man of lawlessness will be revealed after the rapture. It's the way it's worded, you can go either way. But my personal leaning is it happens. The man of sin is revealed because we who are are restraining the evil are taken out of here. So there might be indicating that there is persecution amidst of that there are pockets of people getting saved in droves. And then he comes back for us, and then the man of sin will be revealed in the temple. So the temple could be built before the coming rapture. It may not be. These are things that genuine Christians and brothers and sisters debate constantly about. So so I always was taught that they're going to rebuild the temple. We don't know when, but we know that when we start seeing it, or we know the rapture is near. That's what I always was taught. But if the temple is not built and the rapture happens, I'm not going to worry about it either. So, do you believe the day of the Lord is more than one day? Yeah, it says it in Luke's gospel. When the Son of Man comes in one of his days, it is a plural, written in Greek as a plural, days, meaning the day of the Lord is more than one day. And that's verified as the day of the Lord's judgment. When Israel departed from the Lord, there was a day of the Lord's judgment then, many times, several times. And then there is a day of the Lord when he comes back for the rapture. And then there's a day of the Lord when the millennial reign comes. Then there's a day of the Lord when he makes the new heavens and earth. So those were those things I learned over the years from people far smarter than myself, how they explained it. So there refers to many days, but in Luke's gospel is referring to the rapture and the millennial reign. That's what I've always taught, and so I had heard, and I still believe that they do. Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you, Ashley, for answering it. Built beforehand, but the man of lawlessness will be revealed after the rapture. That's what most people believe, and I believe that too, because I think that's what the text says. But people debate that all over the place. So I agree with Ashley. Oh yeah, and then the other day of the Lord is the tribulation, the 7-year tribulation period. The day of the Lord is approaching. Okay. Jacob trouble is also another name for the tribulation period. Daniel 70th week. Yeah. Well, you got that right, Ashley. That's what I'm saying. You can prophesy. You guys can teach. You guys have an organization ability that puts men to shame. Phew, they're very valuable. In fact, here's one for everybody. You know that all men are not qualified to be pastors. It says it in Timothy. Husband of one wife. I mean, they're one. You can't be married to multiple wives. All that stuff. You have to have a good report. You can't be a drunkard. Boy, a lot of so-called pastors will be left out, and adulterers and everything else that are. I mean, it's much stronger against men than it is women, prohibitive wise. I think in Timothy it says like Eve was easily deceived, and the way she was deceived that her desire was for her husband's power, to have authority over, to dominate him or something like that. I think I read someplace in a commentary. But anyway, so authority in a church should be, like my wife would say, a male. But women have all kinds of roles. They can teach, they can preach from the pulpit if they need to, and they can share. They have the ability. And if you believe in the fivefold ministries, they can be prophets, prophetesses. So, but they have to follow some of there's certain obligations they got to meet too, the same as the men do. You can't be an idiot, basically. You can't be in it for yourself. Can't be in it as a gold digger. You can't be in it for the money. You can't be in for the prestige. You can't be in it for the power and control. There's qualifications for both men and women. But anyway, yeah, we're the women are says it in Joel chapter 2, and in the last days, from the day of Pentecost to the last of the last days, he pours out his spirit on all flesh. He poured out his spirit on his men servants and his maiden servants, and they're going to do great works for the Lord. Hallelujah. We need each other. Jay Vernon McGee. I haven't heard that name in a long time. I used to listen to him on the radio back in the 1980s and stuff, and then I stopped. He had some unique voice for sure, and I'm sure you can find some of his old teachings. I just remember listening to him sometimes. So, Brother Brian, I did a live stream solo last night about more scripture out of the book of Matthew. If you have time, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Appreciate your perspective, brother. Yeah, just send me a message, and if you want to do a video, we can just do a video again if you have time, and the kiddos and all that stuff could behave themselves. Yeah, we set up a time we can just talk about it online like we did before. And then you can ask me questions and I'll give you my perspective. You don't even have to pry me up for it. We'll just do it open-ended. I think that works best. I just recently did a video, an interview with a guy yesterday morning, and great interviewer, and he asked tough questions, but I'm not taken back by them. I've been asked, it's great to be made think and to respond and give the answers right away. I do better at that than trying to pre-plan something. So it's a great interview, and I'll let you know when that will be posted when I find out. I think he said it will be posted in June. I'll give a link to it, to who and what website and all that information when the time comes. So I'll be doing that. Thank you for praying for me. Oh, so Sarah, you live in Golden. There's a church there. I don't know if you went to the church I preach at in Golden or not. I go there every other year or so. If I go back there, I'll let you know. There's a bookstore called The Dwelling Place that's inside the church. I can't remember the name of the church now. So yeah. That's interesting. In Golden. But I'll make an announcement when I go to that church again. Hopefully soon. I don't know. I always like going there. A lot of interesting things happen. Okay, let's see. I'm going through there. Okay, I'm getting tired, so I'm getting down to the bottom here. Another question near the bottom here. Did Epstein relatively make more sense when... No, Brian, did Einstein's... I read that wrong. I'm getting tired. Not Epstein, sorry. Forgive me of that, Lord. Brian, did Epstein's relativity make more sense when you were in heaven? I think if you know much about speed and light travel when you were there. No, I had no idea about speed of light travel or the theory of relativity. I was just basking in a land of liquid love, as I call it, of life. the presence and the life of God, emanating life. And I just can't describe it. And a land of liquid love, like I wrote in my book. And another question. You talk about the proximity of God's throne. Satan at one point must have had a close proximity to his throne, which explains the stones of fire, like the scripture says, correct? Yes. In fact, the vast majority of commentaries and scholars I read over the years all agree. The stones of fire represent, he was very close. He was one of the covering cherubim, like Ezekiel chapter 13 speaks of. That was Lucifer, the devil, Satan, the chief adversary. Satan means adversary. Spelled with an S, he's the chief Satan. So he has a different name and all that. But anyway, that's yeah. But every scholar I read and commentaries and basic theology 101 all talk about say yes to that. It's very close. There's always a little haggling over what the stones of fire were. Were they angelic beings? Were they symbols of God's knowledge and wisdom and understanding? People go hash and haggle over that. I don't get into what the fiery stones were or were not. I'll let them argue about it. Not argue, debate. They debate. They don't. Okay, smash the like button. Do all that for me. Well, I would suggest looking at your YouTube account and find out if there's a way something happened, or type it in. And why did YouTube change my name? I don't understand. I don't think it's my end, but I don't see how it could be. Okay. Let's do a Zoom call, Lord willing, so I can relay my thoughts. Huh? Well, let me know if you want to. If people want to do a Zoom call, I don't know if I want to handle that right at the moment, but it's possible. We get several people who want to ask questions. Do a Zoom call. Possible. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and head out. I think I'm down at the bottom of the list. I'm tired, and I don't want to drag this out any longer because I'm getting sleepy. So with that, you guys be blessed in Jesus' name, and I'll catch you next time. Always look up, for the Lord is drawing nigh. Now, I'll just always put this screen up there. If you need to take a screenshot of it for your references, please do. I'll put that up here, so when I click on end stream, it will run for a little bit, a few seconds, and I just don't want to sit here smiling for a few 30 seconds or so, or however long. But anyway, you guys be blessed in Jesus' name. We'll catch you next time.